I'm the head of 3D at Wave VFX studio based in Romania. And today I'll show you how a small team used Houdini, proceduralism, and some stubbornness, and some passion to rebuild Civil War America for the show The Grey House. So let me give you a bit of a context. The Grey House is an 8-part historical drama set in the time of the Civil War, and it was directed by Roland Joffé and produced by Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman. So it tells a story of a group of brave women from different social backgrounds that build a Union spy network inside the conference capital. So basically they doing serious intelligence work long before intelligence work ever existed. One small detail, it was shot entirely in Romania. So our job at Wave VFX was kind of simple, just take Romania, politely remove Romania, and replace it with 19th century Richmond. Which sounds easy, but until we realize that Romania has a lot of beautiful things, but Civil War America is not one of them. Before jumping into it, I will show you a reel from our final show, just to give you a scale of our work. Environments, set extension, pyro, streets, rivers, crowds, smoke, destruction, basically all the things that make a 3D artist sleep well at night. Okay, that was pretty, let's say, but the reality behind it was different. On the left side is our small 3D team made out of 16 people, and on the right side is a shot list. And this shot list was like 100 plus, and it keeps scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and we reach a point where we stop asking how many shots are left, and we start asking philosophical questions like, I don't know, what is a shot, what is time, why I choose this job. But it was obvious from the beginning that we cannot solve this only with just working harder. I mean, we can work as hard as we want, but we need a multiplier. And for us, that multiplier was Houdini. I mean, not because Houdini magically make the works disappear, but because, okay, Side Effects didn't invent this button yet. I'm really hoping that it will appear in the next iteration. But because help us to build system and granulate our production in such a way that we should not solve every shot by hand. So the equation became, in the end, small t plus Houdini is greater than the shot list times panic. So at least slightly greater, enough to make us feel less suicidal. So this is the main tool set we end up building. We didn't reinvent the wheel here. We mostly use Houdini in a practical, normal way, which is already powerful enough. It's all not hero wear capes, if you want. I won't cover every tool in detail. We also have crowd, plant scattering, dust, debris, explosion, and many other systems. I will focus only on the main tools that help us survive the show, like buildings, city generator, roads, river, bridge destruction, which is a key scene, and scene management in Solaris Karma, and how Solaris Karma help us survive this. Basically, we had one big rule. If we had to do something more than twice, we try to turn it into a tool. First, we should gather some reference, but unfortunately for 1860 Richmond, we don't have a Google Street Map view, so we turn to the Library of Congress for images, references, and we try to get as close as possible time-wise to the period, or anything that could help us capture the architecture and the feeling of the city from that period. So let's start with the buildings. Of course, on a real production, you cannot make everything fully procedural. I mean, that will be beautiful, but slightly insane. So we use three approaches. For Hero Street, we build modular buildings and procedural ones. For specific shots, we build custom geo that match the practical set design and on-set scenography. And for the background objects or spatial cases, we use good old-fashioned fixed assets, the classic Maya approach. Model it, texture it, place it, and pray to God that nobody asked for too many changes. So the idea was use proceduralism where it gives you speed and variation, and use traditional assets where it's simply smarter. I mean, we want to be procedural, not, I don't know, religious. So for the buildings, there are many ways to skin a cat and many ways to build a building, procedural. This time we choose the building from patterns approach because it gives us a good balance between control and variation. We build a library of reusable facade modules, windows, door, columns, roofs, and let Houdini assemble them through rules. This allows us to keep architectural style consistent and quickly change proportions, rhythm, height. Basically, less hand modeling and more art directing. And fingers crossed, a lot of fingers crossed to not have a viewport crash, let's say. I don't know. So, that's the logic behind the building generator. The building inherits its shape and proportion from the proxy geometry. Then a grammar dictionary take it over and divide each floor into patterns that fit our facade modules and place them according to the rules. For example, some modules can repeat, some may stay fixed. Some other will stay just in the middle. So we use Houdini building from pattern SOP, which is a very cool tool, and modify it for our production needs, especially to handle roofs and to read external street attributes that could later drive the building length. So the proxy give us dimension and the grammar give us architecture, and Houdini do the boring part, which why we like it. So that's how it looks in motion. The building can stretch, shrink, change footprint, while the grammar keeps the facades coherent. We are not just scaling the model like rubber, we are rebuilding the facades based on the new proportions. Gave us flexibility, and we could design to specific dimension, of course. Branch around corners. And adapt it to the street requirements, which bring us to the next slide. Because we build flexible buildings, now we can start arrange them on the streets. Here are the street placement building inside the fixed street section. Could be random or could be grammar rules. We copy the rules inside our building asset and throw it on the streets. It also calculates how much space each building needs and how to stretch them from distribute them across the available length. So we could, for example, we can lock the size of one building and all the others will automatically adjust around it, or just simply let Houdini do his job and let everything be random. Depends on the shot needs. So here are some production examples of the system in actual shots. You can see the street in system in action here. I mean, that's one shot with this street, but because it's flexible, it could be used in the next shot. And each time we can vary it according to the camera angles and without much of a fuss. I don't know, sometimes it was a full street, sometimes just a corner or just a piece of a street. So the point was not to generate a perfect city every time, but just to generate enough amount of city for the shot, so to sell the shot. And because I said so many times city, we get to the city generator, and that was our next challenge. And that's the background city. We built a very detailed historical map of Richmond. We found, sorry, a very detailed historical map of Richmond. And the idea here was to use this street layout as a backbone for generating our believable house and neighborhoods. So this asset was not meant for close-up shots. It was meant for distant city views, but enough density, scale, and variation could sell it as a Richmond from 80s, 60s. Of course, the system became a bit more complex than originally planned because our colleague Costner, who was responsible for it, couldn't stop improving. But that's also nice in Houdini. If an asset becomes reusable for future projects, extra effort is not considered waste of time, but an investment in your studio. So we start by building the height field terrain using height field from Houdini and DAM elevation data from Open Topology, which is a nice site that offers that high detail scans for free. Then we project our roads over it to gain elevation and also to level the street areas where the street will be placed over the height field. And then a nice process, which I will not cover here, the process of generating the footprints of the houses. And those footprints contains a lot of attributes that would later become our houses, because in this case, the houses are driven by attributes. It's a rule-based system, not like the one that you already saw, a pattern-based. So it's attribute-based. And the reason we did that is because it will be like thousands of houses, and we should control the style not so much in detail, but on the larger scale. So that's a neighborhood. We divide our whole projects on neighborhoods to be easier to bake and to control the density and the style variation. And to have a cool variation, we use a lot of tools like primitive level color variation and also vertex color variation and the vertex and the UV texture manipulation. And that's the one part of the city done. We try to be as low poly as possible because, for example, in this image we have 2,000 houses, and those 2,000 houses must be, or it helped to be manageable in the viewport for the artist to really make his decisions, plus plants and trees. So we extended beyond houses. We also accommodate some footprints for large buildings, like industrial buildings with interior courtyards, because Richmond near the waterfront have that. Now I will show you a little bit about the logic behind the houses. We drive our logic from the inside of the house and from the street. So here you can see that we have street facade back walls. So all the walls are street walls, the yellow ones, the back walls, and the party walls or the gable walls. The reason we do that is to segment our attributes and to create variation depends on where the wall is placed. For example, if it's near the street, it has a chance to have a shop there, or street type of facades. If it's red or it's party wall, it will have no windows. So you can see here the shop covers are only on the sides facing the road. There was so we had 2 levels of details. For example, those houses here, even if they are the street, they do not have the yellow walls because they have some yards in front of them. So also the yards and the courtyards or the empty spaces could influence the way the facade looked like. So we have two ways, one coming from inside of the house or the footprint full of attributes, and also the neighborhood style. The asset was kind of huge. That's why I'm saying that it was overworked. I mean, you can make a little Bible for the help to these assets, but again, we know that we will use that in future projects, so why not put all together at first and clean it up afterwards. That's an example of the city in action. In purpose, I didn't put texture over this one, just to see that it sells the variation and periods only through blocking. Those are 2 smaller assets, so I grouped them on one slide. They were pretty useful, but nothing very fancy about them. So they didn't need more than that. So the street prop from the side is basically an advanced scatter tool that allows us to place accessories and control the pattern, spacing, randomness, and distribution. And the one from the right, it's my favorite. It's a building layout. It's a road generator based on the building layouts. Like you just feed a building layout to it, and it will generate the roads, and you have, of course, control over it. River generator. This really is my favorite asset from the show. Sadly, didn't get the screen time that it deserved. We need a way to create rivers from distant shots. So we decided not to have a flip simulation here, not even one frame, because Houdini already have a great solution for believable water, and this is Ocean Spectrum Toolset. The problem with the ocean waves from the ocean spectrum is that they travel in straight lines, and as you can see here, the river likes to meander. So the challenge was here how to get this kind of natural river look and make it work on a curved path. So we start by simulating water, but with a very cheap 2D smoke simulation over the river shape. So low res, fast, and good enough to reveal the general direction of the flow, plus some nice swirls and turbulences. At this level of distance, the trick works. We don't really care if it's, I don't know, fluids, smokes, or water. We only need the motion field. Sorry. So once we had that, we extracted the motion field and used it to advect a set of curves to the river. Those curves becomes our streamlines, and basically they are a readable description of how the river wants to flow. We could draw that by hand, but why not simulate that set of curves? So once we have the curves, we use these streamlines as a deformation guide to straighten the surface of the river. It's like rigging. I mean, we use them like a skeleton, and the reverse is like the skin of the character. So the trick was kind of simple and cheap. We flatten each line and extract the perimeter, which is the length of the line, and then scale the freshly flattened line into its original length. So somehow that's how we preserve the length of the river. So now the river, it keeps its original proportion, but it becomes straight enough for the ocean spectrum to work properly. So once the river is straight, we can apply the ocean spectrum over it. So now we have all the good stuff, like the wind direction, wave, scale, noise, calmer areas, turbulent areas, and believable surface detail. So now river, it's aligning with the ocean and not fighting against the curve. After the waves are generated, we morph it back, the river, to original curve shape. So we keep the ocean spectrum detail, but return to the river layout. So you can see it looks pretty easy, pretty good, and it holds reasonably well, even for the close shots. And for example, the longer waves near the corner, that's the way the river acts. It might look like a problem, but if you check the first images that I show you, you'll see that's the way the river reacts. Here are a few examples of this tool. We use it in production shots. As I said, ironically, after this beautiful curved river logic, many of the final shots were seen from the side, so the river sections were straight enough to don't sell our curved, beautiful algorithm. And of course, as usually does, some aerial shots were cut out of the final movie. So this asset worked, the river looked fine and pretty, and the idea survived mainly for this presentation, which is a perfectly reasonable place to exist. Hero bridge destruction system. Now we move to the destruction. This is a practical bridge set that they build on set. So we have a fixed design and a real construction with real construction detail, and we got to respect that. So unlike the city where we inventing endless variation, here we had to match specific proportions. So no room for proceduralism, but while we try to infuse some proceduralism here, and you will see soon how. So we had a fixed design, but we built the bridge in such a way that it could be fully adjustable procedural rig. Every pillar, plank, railing, beam, and everything could be tweaked and match the shots that we will receive or the photogrammetry that we capture. So we had a scan from the location, and we could use our procedural assets to better fit it over the actual river that is actual bridge that is in construction and try to fit it. And also, we are prepared for the shots when they will come to match move and correct the angle of the camera or the distortion of the lens by having a procedural bridge. Proceduralism helps us also to drive the explosive placement, because attributes have a tendency to propagate in Houdini in such a way that it's not destructible, so we can really place the explosive because this bridge will explode. So we have complete control how and where to put this and change it according to director needs, but also keep that manageable and procedural. Then we use the same proceduralism to split the bridge into logical families, like pillars, bridge, stringers, planks, railings, and fracture them separately, because wood, does not politely break the same in everywhere. That's the way the scene looks like. It was a heavy one, but because it's organized, and I suggest you organize all the time, whatever you can organize, it will help your life. So that's the way the fragmented pieces looks like. Everything is about control, and to keep this control all the way your pipeline. So we use the same type of approach to build custom RBD constraints between the pillars, for example, and the traverse. Have control over the weakness, strongness, which are weak, which are strong, and depending on this weakness to see which is failing, which is not. So by the end, we not just model a bridge model anymore, it was a controllable destruction system, and that's because that's how Houdini is built, to help us do that. Which sounds professional, or a professional way to say a very complicated way to break wood. And the result of this, of the explosions is seen here. Those are proxy geometries. The real geometries are kind of heavy. This is real time, but the real geometry is not. As you can see, some of the planks stay together, some of the plank collapse, some depends on the way the explosions are. The explosions are driven by the real pyro explosion, driven from the explosives. So we first do the pyro explosion, then we use this velocity field to destroy our bridge. We use our little asset scatter to scatter our barrels over it, because they want barrels over the bridge, and to make it harder for armies to go over it. I think soon should appear the explosions. Yeah, that's... So those explosions, as I said, was prior builds, and they drive the destruction. And that's a render variation of it. What I'm happy with here is the way the bridge breaks and the way it behaves as a wooden bridge. And the last one, I won't cover it, is the water simulation, which was like the hardest water simulation we ever did, because it was a hero one, and it was more than 1 billion particles. So closing to the end, and the end also is karma. So on the right you can see a practical set from Capitol Plaza where a lot of scenes were shot. So we practically built facades, mostly for the first level of the buildings. So in Solaris we need a way to extend this set with CG buildings, swap variants, and quickly decide what should be visible for each shot. So we built ourselves a sort of a scene picker, and we need a predictable USD hierarchy, and so way that every building follow the same naming pattern. Style, model, variant, count. For example, Neo-Baroque 2.1_01 tell us the style, and model, family, variant, and the instance number. So, okay, Houdini now has a tool that is more professional than the one that we built, custom built ourselves, which is a scene manager. But back in the day when we did that, we didn't have it, so we built one to ourselves. And the way we did it is, this is the scene where we have a crazy type of a layout. This scene is inherited by everybody in the pipeline. Whoever will work on this scene will have this scene. As you can see, everything is grouped nicely as a USD for work we did. So we decided that it's too much of a work to click on each building and hide it and show it and so on. So we built ourselves a nice custom Python panel that will grab a top view of the whatever scene you give it to him, and it will transform every object into a button, which is toggleable, and you can hide and show whatever you want to hide and show. And you can connect that with the camera and save it for others to use it. I mean, you can make groups with them, groups based on style, groups based on, you can hide them by style. And for example, you choose a camera, camera 1, click on the scene 1, everything which is not used in scene 1 is hidden. Work on your shot, save it, send it to somebody else. When it will open, it will see the modification. Again, it's a poor man picker, but really help us and make our life easier and make our, organize our life in such a way that we will not step on each other's toes. Yeah, this is scene 6 or whatever. We have like, 45 or 60 scenes here. For example, this is a new camera that I received from the comp, and I want to build a layout for it, so I'm choosing which objects I want to keep and which object I want to show. I experiment with the layout. Once I'm done, I write a name for this new layout, save the layout. The layout is saved in the pipeline, and I can assess it. So it's some kind of a user-based build by, I don't know, it's like Facebook. Every prompt, it will grow your site. That's an example of some shots that contains, that we did it with this. I mean, you can see here that shots are long. They cover 360 degrees all the time, and there are not one like that. There are many long shots with turnarounds and camera following the character, and we really need a controllable way to show and hide things and understand our scene. I will show you in the end. Actually, now is the end, so now I will show you. Those are 2 minutes of the last, of one shot from the movie. I want to show you this because this puts together everything that we did from the Pyro destruction, bridge destruction, plant scattering, which I didn't talk. All the plants in the background are CG. Basically, here we have a piece of a bridge and some dry land. So everything else is us.
Prepare to blow the bridge! Light 'em up! Clear the bridge! Clear the bridge! Bill! Bill! Wake up, Billy! Wake up! Bill! Wake up! Come on! Get up! Come on!
Thank you.